What is going on, everybody? If you notice right now, Gwen is not here. She's currently experiencing some air conditioning issues. So she will be popping in from time to time. But tonight we have an amazing show. I think it's going to be a great conversation. We got our guest, Larry Eissler III, coming on, author, filmmaker. He's done some work with Paraflixx. He also does paranormal workshops. So we're not going to sit here and gild the lily, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Larry.
What's going on?
What is up, Larry? How are you today?
Tired. Always tired.
I can imagine. So we're being tired,
Always.
man. I know my shows are at a little bit of a later time slot, so I appreciate you taking an hour-ish out of your time to come and chat with us.
No worries, man. I'm ready. Pumped. Here we go.
Awesome. I think I'm ready too, but you know what? I'm never really ready. Even though it's my podcast, I always get nervous before I have a guest on because I'm like, what if I ask a question wrong or wrong? You know how it goes.
Sure. I mean, there's really no wrong questions.
Oh,
I'm fairly open, so any questions you got, I'll answer them as best I can.
right. So, let's just go ahead and jump into it. First question I have for you, which is a typical question I feel like most people ask at the beginning of every paranormal podcast. What got you into the paranormal? Was it a specific occurrence? Did you always have a general interest? What exactly pushed you in the direction of wanting to research this field?
So, is this a profanity positive show?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. So my goal in getting into the paranormal was to prove that it was bullshit. It was all fake. People were using fishing line and all sorts of stuff, which, this was 15 years ago. So we didn't have AI and all the stuff you have now. But back then you could do a lot of stuff with fishing line.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Hey, Morgan.
I did a lot of time on a web forum for Bachelor's Grove Cemetery and managed to debunk quite a few different things. But eventually someone got a little mad and they invited me to go out and investigate with them. And my first investigation, I experienced way more than I could possibly debunk. And 15 years later, I still haven't been able to debunk the paranormal. So I've pretty much given up now.
But you are right though in the mindset of there really is a lot out there that can be disproven if you know what you're doing and you know what you're looking for. But
Oh yeah,
that doesn't mean everything can be explained away.
right. The most common one that people don't even realize are like building pops. If it's 90 degrees outside and then when the sun goes down, it shifts to 60 degrees, the whole building is going to sing.
Yep.
Everything is going to pop. It's going to creak. It's going to groan. And you have to be aware of that. Now, if the floor pops right in front of you, okay, maybe that could be a footstep. Who knows? But if it's like, oh, the walls are knocking, no, it's probably not the walls knocking. It's
Yeah, and,
probably
and
not.
I'm looking forward to putting that that specific theory to the test when I'm at Broadhead in Wisconsin. So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to that because I'm curious to see how the building is going to sound overnight because I'll be there all night. So
So the fun thing about Broadhead is it's composed 90% of like cinder blocks and brick.
okay,
So there's not much popping.
good,
It's
good,
a whole ton of concrete.
good.
Um, and the building really retains its heat for the most part. So if it's, well, you're coming in July, right?
Yes, what's up, Paranormal Rockdown? Thanks for joining, guys.
Speaking of July. So,
Speaking of,
let's say on that day it happens to be 90 degrees outside while we're at the Rock Down.
I hope it's not.
More it could be it's July, you never know.
It's true.
But let's say that it is. The building inside will probably be in the mid to high 70s because it'll retain the heat from the night before.
Okay,
And then depending on, people going in and out all day long, it might warm up a little bit into the 80s. It'll pretty much stay in the 80s most of the night until it gets cold, cold.
okay. So you're
So,
saying I won't need a blanket?
more than likely not. More than likely not. All the times that I've stayed at Broadhead, I've always just brought a sheet because either the building is blistering hot, because there's no air conditioning, it's semi-abandoned, or it's in the fall or winter time, and the room that I'm in has heat.
Gotcha.
So I've always been pretty comfortable, but I
Okay.
have internal insulation, so it keeps me warm.
Yeah, I got some of that. That's what you get when you go from working on the shop floor to working a desk job. I've gained like 30 pounds since I started sitting behind the desk.
Yeah, well, you probably picked up the 30 that I lost.
You know what? That's fair enough. You had to give it somewhere, right?
It's got to go. Someone's got to pick it up.
It's
Just not
got to
me.
go. So, for people out there who are not familiar with your work, because I know you dabble in a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Could you explain people just a little bit more about the different things that you're into? Because I know you're an author, you're a filmmaker, you do
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So I always put filmmaker first because that's really what my passion is. I have a master's degree in communications for film. Spent a lot of time in school for film, so film has to come first.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough.
and with that, even when I'm not producing an episode or a documentary or whatever, given the opportunity, I'll still run a camera on an investigation. It's what I like to do. So, um, I have I have a lot of investigations that I'm actually recording for my upcoming book, where I'm just
Nice.
filming the investigation, where really other people are investigating for me because I'm holding the camera. But it's documenting the experiences that we collectively had as a group that's going to get turned into a chapter for the book.
Sweet.
So there's a little bit of overlap there. But I also write other things. I'm a co-author on a short story book that I co-authored with Dan Norvell, and also co-authored with him a half history, half paranormal book on the Black Hawk War of 1832.
Okay, yep. I was actually looking into that one a little bit.
That one, my undergrad major is in history. I really love history. Had I never discovered film, I'd probably be teaching history right now.
That's what
But
I always wanted to do. So
yeah, I got the bug, so it is what it is.
if you like history, you like history. If you don't like history, you don't like history. There really
Yeah.
is no 50-50.
Well, and having that background in history really comes in handy when you're doing documentaries and even the paranormal. Um, methods and research and how to go about finding sources that are legitimate. over
Right.
sources that, eh, it's an opinion.
So
So
whenever, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I forgot where I was going with that. So continue.
So when you're going on your and you're doing these documentaries, right? I do you get involved in the actual history research behind the scenes? Like, are you the guy on foot going to the historical society trying to find information and doing all that stuff, or do you even use historical societies?
Sometimes, I find a lot of times, especially, how do I say this? Historical societies with employees that have been there for a long time. Employees who are a little more seasoned than we are. They
Fair
tend to
enough.
not be okay about the paranormal. So when you start bringing up things where they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is another paranormal dude," they tend to like rebuff you. However, a lot of buildings, the people that buy them or own them have done their own research and they've contacted these societies to get information. And as the building owner, it's a little bit more forgiving.
True.
So, I always go to who owns the building or who manages the building first.
Okay.
They're the one that they have to talk to people every day when they're renting the building out, and they have to give the tours and they have to give the correct information every single time, right? So these are always a good place to start. It gives you dates, it gives you names, it gives you locations if need be, and it allows you to kind of springboard from there. Okay, so the owner of the Roth House in Watsika, Illinois, which is our last documentary, he mentioned the name of Asa Roth. So now I'm going to look more into Asa Roth. See what books have been written about Asa Roth, who has mentioned Asa Roth in any of their writings, any newspaper articles that mention Asa Roth and spiritualism and the death of Mary Roth. And it just kind of rabbit holes from there.
Gotcha, gotcha. I,
So,
I like that. I like that though, because you are right. Being in a location owner, especially if you're giving the tours, when you don't have a specific tour guide, that works for you. I mean, that it really is a great place to start.
yeah. Now, I will say, though, there are some location owners that don't have the history right. And sometimes that's accidental and sometimes it's on purpose. So you can't take what they're saying as gospel. Like you have
Fair
to do
enough.
your own research too.
Right.
Because
So you're using it as
some
a starting point.
locations, yeah, some locations they're going to amp up the history to make it seem more scary to get more bookings.
That makes sense.
When in reality, uh, that's not that way.
So you actually
But
answered the question that I was going to use to follow up on that, because I was going to ask you, why would someone fake the history on purpose? So you shot off that answer before I could even ask it.
well, it for some people that do that, and I'm not going to name any names. It's about getting bookings, about making more money for the building, which can be for altruistic purposes, fixing the floor, fixing the roof, or whatever. But it's still incorrect. The history still doesn't line up. Sometimes it's the crowd that calls everything a demon. All of a
Oh,
sudden, the history changes because if you mention demon in the name, now all of a sudden everyone's going to book it, and you can book it for $800 a night instead of 400 a night
right.
because the history now supports there being a demon there.
Yeah, I think that that word is so over commercialized now, thanks to television and stuff, and it really
Mhm.
does. It hurts the other people that are out there trying to do the honest work,
Sure.
or even to be honest, the people that are just going out for a night of fun because they want to experience something.
Yeah.
Not all of those people have $800 they can just lay right down. So I mean, it
Yeah.
kind of hurts everybody in a way.
Well, and the sad thing is, when you think about it, $800 is a lot of money,
It
but
is.
that's not even the most expensive.
Oh, I know. I've looked
Like
at
they're
places.
a lot more.
Oh yeah, I've looked at places that charge almost $1,400 for 6 hours, and I'm like, that's not
6
happening.
hours. Yeah.
That's
And
insane.
if you want the history tour to kind of show you the building and stuff like that,
You gotta
that
pay
takes an
extra.
hour out of your 6 hours.
I actually came across one location. They charge you an extra, I think it's $150 to take the historical tour.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, but you are
So
right. That does take out of your 6 hours. So technically, you've got 5 hours of investigation time, but that's not including setup. That's not including getting all your equipment ready. So by the time you're actually investigating, you might get 4 hours.
you might get 4 hours for $800. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, there are places that up to 1400. They're without naming a specific name, people in Wisconsin will know what I'm talking about. There's a place in Wisconsin that is way beyond 1400
Really?
for the night. Way beyond. It's a big building, but I've heard recently they've dropped the price down, but for a while it was very expensive.
That is crazy to me.
So Morgan in chat actually just brought up a very interesting thing too. At a place tell me that they have an extra fee if you plan on posting content while you're
Oh,
there.
I've heard of that as well. Yep.
So that actually happened to me once. I was contacting Jacqueline Nunez with the Conjuring House in 2022, 2023, and I wanted to book it on her two least busy nights. So it was a Sunday and a Monday. And she quoted me about $2,300. And I was like, okay, for 2 days, all night, all day, because we're filming, it's all day too.
Yeah, that's decent.
I'm like, cool, yeah, that's actually a really good price. On top of that, I need travel, lodging, and all that stuff, so I can make that work. So I transfer her to my production email account because before it was just like on one of those contact forms back and forth.
Yep.
So I say, hey, shoot me an email here. We'll get things finalized. I'll send you over the forms. Well, the moment she saw that my email was smalltownproductions.com, the price jumped to 5,300 only because I was producing content there.
That is a huge jump just to produce content.
Just to produce content. I've also had places where they tell you, just like Morgan said, if you plan to put this on YouTube, you need to pay a fee. And it's like, you guys are nickel and diming the paranormal right now, and it's not going to go over well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if you're putting it on YouTube or you're making content out of it or whatever, I mean, they should look at that as free publicity.
Until the D word comes into it.
Yes. Okay. Once again, that
So
dreaded D word.
it's the D word. All of a sudden, and a lot of places have had this problem. Even broadheads have this problem. I don't remember who it was. I'm sure someone out there knows. Two YouTubers came in and said, there was demons in there and it made them sick and it chased them out, yada, 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 and put it out on YouTube. So
Yeah.
I understand, I get it, but at the same time, it's like if you restrict people from doing what they need to do at your location, they're not going to come back.
Right.
I don't need to go. I'm going to use Broadhead in this example, but obviously it's not the case.
Right.
If there were a location where a big location like Broadhead, and they're like, hey, if you want to post to YouTube, it's an extra $500. There are a million other places to go.
That's
I don't need to
true.
go there. And all of a sudden, these places that want to fix their floors and fix the walls and get heat and electricity, they're gonna have a hard time because the people that are actually booking these locations, they're gonna stop.
And that's a good point.
So
That's a very good point. So
yeah.
I know you said, you spent a lot of time in school for filmmaking and stuff like that. So has filmmaking always been an interest in your life? Is that just something you've always enjoyed doing?
Nope, not at all.
Interesting.
So we did Expedition Eddie, the very first edition of it, was for YouTube, like in 2015 or something like that, like 10 years ago. Holy crap. So that was the first one. We did a couple episodes and they're not good. We'll just put it out there. They're not good. Don't go and look for them. Please
Oh, I'm
don't go
going
watch
to
them.
now.
They're bad.
I'm going to now. I have to.
Don't do it. They're not good. I use like the Google Earth drop down. It's really bad. So yeah, yeah. So
I
I'm
like it.
I'm in the bachelor's program at my university, and I'm like super loaded on history because history is my major. I want to teach history, yada yada yada. And I need a minor, and I'm like, well, I don't want to do any of this other stuff. So a friend of mine that I'd met in another class, he's like, hey, why don't you just do film? They're super easy classes. There's like next to no homework, and you could knock them out pretty easily. And I'm like, well, I could improve on the crap that was Expedition Entity originally. Maybe I'll learn a few things. By the time I finish my bachelor's degree, I have almost enough credits for a dual major because I shifted away from the history and did the bare minimum for history and then just super loaded up on film.
Interesting.
And I'm nearing the end of my bachelor's, and one of the professors that I had like 4 classes with, he says to me, hey, what did you think about, getting your master's in film? And I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm done with this. And he kind of told me about this teaching assistant program that I teach film with him and basically get a free master's degree and get paid on top of it to teach film. And I'm like, ah, it's a free degree and I get paid.
I kind of feel like that's a good deal.
Ah, shit. So I signed up for it and I got approved. I was probably one of the oldest teaching assistants there. Everyone else was in their 20s and I was like 35. And for 2 years I taught film while getting my master's on the side.
Nice.
And a lot of the courses that I couldn't take as an undergrad because of COVID, they were shut down for a long time. They had just popped up. And as a master's student, I could jump into them now. So I took even more film classes. By the time I graduated, by the end of my master's, I'd taken almost every single one of them.
So
So
it's
I
so-
wrap that up and they go, hey, listen, there's a spot here if you want to continue teaching for film. And I knew that if I did that, everything else would end. Because the professor that I've been working with, he does one documentary every like 3 years because he just doesn't have time to film because he's always teaching and always grading. And I knew that if I would have taken that job, I wouldn't be able to go to events. I wouldn't be able to film what I'm filming. I wouldn't be able to do random pickup jobs. Like everything would be built around my school schedule. So meaning it has to be in the summer now. So I turned it down,
yeah, that
and
was
now I'm pursuing the paranormal.
and I love it, and I have to also congratulate you because I know you said in your bio that you sent me that Expedition Entity won a Telly Award.
It did, yeah. So starting from the garbage that it was, and all the film classes I took, which was the plan, we revamped one episode for Expedition Andy. It was one of our very first ones at the Veterans Memorial Hall in Rockford, Illinois. Reshot the interview, did a whole bunch of other stuff, and submitted to Paraflixx like I don't know 3 months into the network existing, like from the early days. And Natalie Jones was all over it. So from there, we just kept getting every season was better and better and better. I learned more about film. I actually bought cameras that are film cameras. Got better with editing, got lighting, a drone, all the stuff. And then the first episode of season 3, we went back to Broadhead Manor, and everything just kind of fell into place somehow. And I'm sitting there watching this episode back, and I'm like, I think this might be one of the best things I've ever shot.
Nice.
And I submitted to a ton of film festivals. I think without looking,
What's up, Brandon? I see you down there.
I could probably look, but I think without looking, I probably submitted it to dozens and dozens and dozens of festivals. Now it's gonna bug me, so I'm gonna look real quick.
That's fine.
um, so yeah, get it all submitted and everything, and out of the, hold on, I'm gonna find it here. There it is. Oh my god. 35 festivals that we submitted it to. We won. It looks like just about half.
Nice.
So that just about 50%. That's pretty good.
That is.
Most people don't get anywhere near 50%, but one of them was the Tellys, and this was like a $250 entry fee, and I mean the odds of us winning were next to none. There's no way. There's just no way. We're up against like, Comcast and Discovery Channel and all this stuff and all these categories. And I believe in total there was like 14,000 entries. Um, we entered into the unscripted online series because Expedition Eddie is completely unscripted. And somehow I got the email that we won.
And how did that make you feel?
I was in shock. I probably froze. I'm pretty sure I dropped my phone because I got the email on my phone. And then it kind of like hit me, and I'm like, holy shit, we won.
And it's got to feel good to see, when you go back and look, which you told me not to look, so I guess I respect your
Don't
wishes and
do it.
not look.
It's not
But
good.
when you go back and look at the original episode and then getting that email, like you look at how far that product has come, you know?
It has. And along the way, a lot of film festivals will also do like a review of the submission. And I've got a couple of reviews that really understood the thought process on things. Intentional decisions like carrying a font all the way through the episode, to have it start and finish the same font, or things like that. It makes you realize that the little decisions that you use to, like the font, people notice it, and they realize that it was intentional, and they're like, wow, that was actually really amazing that you did that. And it's like, wow, I didn't think anyone would pick that up. Oh, thank you, Jenny. I also
So
did the intro and outro to Jenny's podcast as well.
nice. That's awesome. I unfortunately do my own. I'm not the greatest with it, but I try. Um,
It's a
I enjoy it.
process. It's a
I
process.
enjoy it. But so, is there an episode of Expedition Entity that, when you go back and you think about it, could you pick a favorite?
You know, Originally it would have been that Telly Award winning one. Um, Everything just kind of fell into place in a way that it's like I can't repeat that. Like everything worked, everything clicked. Now, it's gonna be the new episode that we just shot.
Okay.
It's well, number one, it was the episode that was never supposed to happen. So we ended season 3 with 5 episodes instead of 6. And it was because the location dropped out. We just couldn't remain in contact, and by the time like I had to start filming, they just weren't answering emails, so we had to drop them. So we had 5 episodes, and my OCD was like going off because both other seasons had 6 episodes, and I'm
You
like, it's
have to
not
have that
done,
six.
it's not done. But shortly after, my partner Dan retired from the paranormal, and I'm like, it's never gonna happen now. I'm never gonna get that 6th episode because I can't do the show without him. Half of the magic is he and I. So a year and a half went by, and Bill, the owner of Broadhead, goes, hey, you never finished the building. You did the first floor, you did the second floor, you never did the third floor. Derek, what's going on, brother? So I'm like, yeah, I don't think Dan's gonna
What's
come
going on,
back
Derek? How you doing?
to do the third floor. And he goes, Dan will come back. You just need to ask him. So I mulled it around for a little while, and he and I were chatting about the good old days, about how Expedition Andy was really amazing and stuff. And I'm like, what would you say to doing one more? And he's like, well, what did you have in mind? Well, Broadhead. We never did the third floor. Let's do Broadhead. And we'll finish the episode the right way. We'll finish the season. We'll finish the show all in one fell swoop. And he goes, yeah, I could do that.
Yes.
So I got Dan. Of course, I got Bill because he brought it up. But it wasn't just the Dan and Larry show. Steve has been a part of the show since the beginning. I contact Steve, reach out to Steve. I'm like, hey, would you be down for one more? Hell yeah, let's go. He's down. I'm like, okay. Well, now we need Jen. And Jen's been out of the paranormal for a minute. She kind of slowed down. She's doing her own thing. I'm like, hey, what would you say to one last hurrah, one last song and dance? And she's down. And I'm
Nice.
like, holy shit, it's all falling together now. But Dan is still out of the paranormal. He doesn't really want to get all that into it. He wants to finish the show with just us and, have one last session with he and I. And he's like, and that's really all I want to do. So I go, okay, well, if Dan's going to dip, Alicia, how are you? If
Hello,
Dan's going to
Alicia.
dip, I need a guest investigator, someone that can help fill the screen time, that can help mix things up a little bit, because I'm very rarely on camera, and Steve is on camera holding a camera, and we can't have Jen doing it all by herself.
Fair enough.
So I contacted Brittany Bickett and Michelle Roos, and they're both like, hell yeah, let's do it. And the combination of those three women in front of the camera was ridiculously awesome. So I don't want to give
Okay,
too
don't
much
spoil.
away.
Okay, don't spoil it.
I can mention some things I put in the teaser. I put Jen in a coffin.
Well, see, I'm okay with this because I like coffins. So
Well, she was okay with it, but her anxiety spiked as soon as the lid went down.
I can
And
understand that.
we were only like 20 feet away in the other room, just in case. We were right there. So we're listening and just hearing for screams that never happened. She toughed it out, and she tells us when she gets out, she's like, I heard scratching on the metal on the inside of the coffin. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe you shifted your weight or something. Okay, I'll look back at it. So I look back at the video, and she has a camera inside the coffin. She's laying perfectly still, and you hear the scratching. It's like fingernails on the metal, and I'm like, holy shit, that actually caught. It was caught, but
That's awesome.
every move that she made was caught by the microphone on top of the coffin because it's right there. It's like 2 inches
Right.
away. The scratch was not.
That makes it even more intriguing.
The scratch was only caught by the camera inside the coffin. So
Kind of
I
makes you,
think we caught a scratch inside the coffin.
yeah, that would make me think it's coming from inside the coffin, not the exterior.
Right. Because, every time she shifted her weight, you could hear, the little pops and stuff on the outside mic. Like it was loud enough to hear. Every time she would touch something, like, when she put her hands up, you could hear the tapping, but the scratch you never heard.
That is,
So imagine being inside a coffin with the lid shut and nobody else is there, and you hear scratching right next to you.
I for one would like to experience that for myself. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how I would react in the moment because if
Unfortunately, you're a little too big for the coffin.
I
uh, the
mean,
the
what if I
coffin
take
is
my what if I take
the,
my
co-
shoes off?
the coffin is Jen sized,
Yeah, I'm not
and
gonna fit.
Jen is not very tall,
I'm not
so
gonna fit.
you won't go fit.
Uh,
But the cool thing about the coffin is it's a rental coffin. So families would rent it for a couple days, have their loved one's body on display in the coffin, and then they would get dumped with the ice from the inside into the grave and then sealed up and off they went. Well, the coffin went to the next family. So there's no way to know how many bodies were in that coffin before it wound up at Broadhead Manor.
no, see, I knew about the coffin at Broadhead, and I knew this had something to do with ice and build. Me, he explained it to me a little bit, but I had no
Yeah.
idea that it was a rental that just kind of traveled.
Right. Well, I mean, back in the day it did.
Right.
So now I'm going to make a caveat and say that we got special permission to be inside the coffin. That doesn't mean that anyone can just crawl into it.
Correct.
Don't go in there assuming you're going to be able to go into the coffin. We got
No.
special permission. It was a special thing. So not everyone's going to be able to.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that should honestly go with any location that you're at. Respect the location, respect the things within the location.
Right. Because if 100 people crawl into the coffin, it's going to eventually break down.
Yep.
So, Neil was with us another time around the coffin, and you could feel the vibrations coming off of the coffin when we did it.
No, that's interesting.
So I forgot about that. He was there that night. We put an OB, what is that device called? An Eddy box, the one that does the vibrations on it, and
Yeah.
that wasn't going off for the vibrations, but when you put your hand on it, you could feel them.
Interesting.
So there's something going on with those coffins.
Yeah, there's gotta be.
Yeah. The rest of the time, we focused on the third floor, and the third floor, it's popping. There's a lot going on up there. It's a lot of spirits. And there's a jerk. There's a jerk up there. There's a jerk that likes to scare people.
Okay.
So, and we dealt with the jerk for quite a while during that filming.
Interesting. So I should add third floor to my sleeping location list, is what you're saying.
No. No. Um, there's no furniture up there. There's no bed. It's the most abandoned state of the building. So, it's moderately clean. Um, there's no like mold or asbestos or anything like that. It's clean, but it's super dusty, and in certain areas the ceiling's coming down, and
Ah, gotcha.
so I would sleep on the second floor, but third floor is open to investigate, and you'll get some good stuff.
Now, and I'm just looking forward to seeing exactly what happens there, because I have heard so much from various people that have been there, and so
Sure.
it's like when you hear these occurrences, which when I go into a location, I like the history, and I like hearing about other people's occurrences, but as soon as I walk through that door, my mind goes blank. I forget completely about their occurrences because I don't want to
Mm.
go in with a preconceived notion, because to me that could psychosomatically make me experience what they're experiencing.
Sure. You could lean towards this name instead of listening to the spirit try to give you their name.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally
So
makes sense.
has there ever been a moment when during the filming of Expedition Entity that you have had one of those just like holy shit that just happened moments?
Oh, yeah. A lot of the times, it usually involves some kind of a spirit box or an Estes session. Um, it's just the wildest things that you're just not prepared for. But there was one time we were we were doing we were communicating at the Freeport Masonic Temple in Freeport, Illinois, and we're in the auditorium area. It's like a 2,000 seat theater with a pretty good sized stage. And for some reason, the blue lights are flickering. This is a decades old light board. It's boxed off. We can't access it. It was off earlier in the day when we were filming our interviews. So somehow these lights are now flickering on their own. There's no like pattern to them. It's very random.
Interesting.
So I was filming Dan and our guest investigator Sierra. They were out in the seats and I was on the stage. And then Steve's kind of off to the side to give me a different angle. And Dan goes, something along the lines of, these flashing lights are pretty annoying. Can you just turn the lights off? And then on the video, you see the lights go boop, and they just stop. And then Dan just starts laughing, and you can't see it because I'm behind the camera. My eyes are probably as big as saucers. I'm like, I can't believe they actually just did that. They just boop, turned the lights off. So
Okay, so
that one was
going
real surprising.
so going on that particular trend of you had the most surprising thing that you think, or one of your oh shit moments. Has there
Mhm.
ever been a moment during an investigation that just completely terrified you for a few minutes?
No,
Good, because
no.
you'd be shocked at how many
I
people have that.
Yeah, so just recently within the last year here, I learned that I'm a very particular kind of light worker. And I'm still in the early stages of this. Like I'm still not 100% sold, but it all makes sense now. The particular type of light worker that I am is called a light keeper, and I'm basically a giant light bulb walking around. It's just light, and
Okay.
as a result, really negative things tend to not stick to me.
Oh,
So, I'm perfectly comfortable walking in the dark in a haunted location. As a cameraman, I always have my back to the empty room, and I'm
yeah, that
constantly
is
told, "Hey, there's something behind you." I'm like, great, okay. They're probably
that's a,
looking at my screen, so I'll have a shoulder rig, and I'll just be like, "Hey, check this out. What do you think?" Okay,
I love that. That is an awesome response. Oh, that's great. I love that.
yay, yay. So you know, I work with a lot of people, or they're like, I saw this, I felt this. Like, do you feel anything? Nah. I wish I did. I don't. I Nothing. I've got nothing.
That's
So
interesting.
I see things and I hear things and it's like, oh, something touched me. Oh, that tickles. Okay, stop tickling me. Other than that, like nothing yet has really scared me.
Okay, so
Um,
so what would, besides the light turning off, like was there ever anything that you've seen that you just did not expect when it happened? which I don't think
Anything
you
I've
ever really
seen.
expected. But
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah. So we were just at a 3-day investigation trip. The first day was Ashmore Estates, and then the Rhodes Hotel, and then we ended at Pine Lawn. So like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On Saturday, when we were at the Rhodes Hotel, it's about halfway into the night. We've been doing this for a while. We did it the whole night before. I'm tired. I'm doing nothing but filming for my book. So everyone else is kind of doing the investigating, and I'm just kind of filming them and making sure it sounds and looks good so I can watch it back later to write the book chapter. And it was myself and Michael Alsip, who's on a team here in Chicago called Spire. And we're both kind of seated in an area where we can see out a doorway. And across the hall is another open door to the other room. And for some reason, we're both looking out this door at the same exact time, and we both see a woman in a dress standing in the door. And he looks at me, and I look at him, and I go, "You saw that?" So we're talking about it, and he's talking about it because he saw something a little different than I did. He saw like the hair was down and more of her face, and I saw more of the dress. So as we're talking, I'm looking into the room again, and the REM pod in that room goes off. And as the REM pod goes off, I see the dress, the light colored dress, change colors based on the color of the REM pod light. And that was very surprising.
yeah, it's a little wild.
The fact that I saw it so clearly and somebody else saw it with me. And then as we're talking about it, the dead bell is going off with ones and twos for yes and no, like as confirmation of what we're seeing.
That is
Um,
that's an that's
that was
wild.
that was fun. I really enjoyed that one. And it's on film. Now I don't know if the spirit's on film. More than likely it's not, because that's kind of how it goes. But our reactions are, and it's going to be a great part of the book.
I love that. I love
Um,
it.
I definitely wasn't scared, but boy was I surprised.
Fair enough. I mean, the people, you got to realize there is a difference between scared and surprised. Just because
Yeah.
someone yells doesn't mean they're scared. They might just yell because, hey, you shocked them a little bit. They don't do that.
Or you're just really excited because when you're the camera guy, all you see is the screen.
Right.
You can't see anything else. You're always looking at the screen. And it just so happened that I got bored and turned my head sideways and I saw a full-bodied spirit. It never happened. So it was so exciting to finally see one in, like full form, not just a shadow.
Yeah, because seeing them alone is rare enough as it is. To have two
Right.
people see an almost identical thing, that's
Yep.
astronomical.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So I also know
exciting.
you do a lot of paranormal workshops.
Yeah, I do presentations and workshops. Kind of depending on what the conference needs. Most of them just want a presentation, something that everyone can sit down and listen to or watch for 50 minutes. Workshops can be a little bit longer. They're a little more involved. It's more teaching than just presenting. But this year and last year and probably next year, my big workshop is going to be on producing the paranormal, taking all this stuff that you're capturing and turning it into something of quality, something viewable, something that you might be able to put on Paraflixx or Beacon or even Amazon Prime or Tubi or whatever. But there's ways that it has to be shot. There's rules and formulas and techniques that have to be done to make it look that way.
Right.
So that's the workshop.
Yes, because I can tell you, I have a drone. I know you said earlier, you have one, you use it. I've tried my drone out twice, and both times I got it stuck in a damn tree.
Well, yeah. The drones can be tricky. Drone is one of those ones where you really have to practice a lot
Yeah,
before
because
you can get
it's
dangerous
a,
with the trees.
it's almost like the controls are opposite from what you would expect, and I think that's kind
Mhm.
of what throws me off a little bit. Yeah,
Sure.
first time it was going good. The video on the drone looks great, and then I hit something, and a gust of wind, floop, right up into the top of the tree, and I'm like, fuck.
Hmm. Yep. I just did a filming for a documentary the last like week and a half, where I was flying my drone blind in like major cities. So, Kansas City, St. Louis. I didn't get it up in Chicago because the The buildings were too close. Um, Denver, I flew in Denver, and it's like I had to get so far away that the drone, I couldn't even see the drone anymore. I'm just hoping I don't hit a building at this point, because once you hit a building, that's it. You're done. It's
Yeah,
over. So, but yeah, there's a lot of technique to flying your drone, and different types of shots that you want to get, and how to manipulate the drone's joysticks and the settings in order to get those shots. That's a little more beyond the average user.
yeah, because I can
Um,
tell you that is one thing I do love. I love a good drone shot. I think they look
yeah,
amazing on film if you do it correctly, and it adds so much to me to the ambiance of what you're shooting.
it can. It definitely can. Especially if you do it at the right time. There are ways to do drone shots at night, which, if there's trees and power lines around, don't do it. It ain't worth it. But if it's, fairly open and you've got all the lights on in the windows, like, it could be some really cool looking shots.
Right.
But if there's like one little twig tree out in the middle of a field, you're guaranteed to hit it. So think about it. You're gonna hit
That's a
that
good
tree.
call.
So,
I would prefer to hit the trees and the power lines.
well, yeah, because once it hits the power line, it's done. You'll never get it back. A tree, you might just bust a propeller.
Right.
Um, I've crashed my drone twice at Broadhead because of trees, and then once because of the wind, because it blew it into the building, and then it bounced off.
Oh, nice.
So that's why you always have spare
Nice.
propellers. But the workshop really focuses more on pre-production and then interview and investigation techniques
See, and
for just for filming on the film side.
right, but even if it's just for the film side of it, for someone who just is just starting out and wants to get into that particular aspect style of filming,
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like that would be a great benefit for them to at least, have a look into.
I feel like because of YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and everything, even your regular investigator that has no interest in producing a show, it's all information that could be very helpful for them. Because, like, you still want it to look and sound good.
Right.
You still want the person investigating to be framed up correctly, because if they're not, whatever you're trying to show the audience, it's just not going to look and sound good. So, from there, um, having some kind of a little workshop could be very beneficial. But it's unfortunately, because it's a workshop, it is an added cost to the conference. So you have to
Right.
actually want to do it. It's not something you can just walk into for free, because it's more of a sit down instruction base instead of just a watch this.
Right. Which for me personally, if I hear someone's putting on a workshop, right, I'm going to expect to have to pay a fee to take it. That's to me that should be implied, but I guess it really you never know these days.
Sure. There are some workshops that are free, especially in the paranormal, because people just want to give back to the community, and that's perfectly fine. It just kind of depends on what they are.
Right.
I know, like, I want to say, I think Lauren does workshops with equipment, and I think hers are
Yes.
free.
Yeah, and
Um,
Lauren's amazing. I love Lauren.
yeah, she does fantastic work, and she is a very good educator. Um, it's just usually when I show up to events, sometimes workshops are the only way I get paid. So
Fair
otherwise,
enough.
I'm super in the negative for all my events, and you got to try to at least break even.
Yeah, and I understand that one fully, because I've got besides Broadhead 4 events I'm going to this year. I'm not getting paid for
Mhm.
any of them. I don't have any merch, so I'm not
I
selling anything.
I think I have 20 or 30 events,
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
and some of them are like 11-hour, 15-hour drives.
See, I've
So
got no.
just to get there, it's like $200 or $300 in gas.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I
So
thought for me, just doing the ones that I'm doing so far this year has already been overwhelming with having the podcast and everything else going on. And I'm like,
sure.
I think that's my limit right there because like two of them, because I've got one, I think in where is it? Connecticut the week before Broadhead. So it's like two in
Okay.
a row, back to back, and then I was gonna go to the Gettysburg Bash on the
hmm
week after Broadhead,
hmm
and I'm like, that's just too many weekends in a row.
So I'm doing the Rock Down Friday and Saturday. Sunday, I think I'm home. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have investigations heading towards Gettysburg. Thursday, I have an investigation in Gettysburg.
Nice.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the conference. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are investigations heading home.
That's packed, brother. That's packed.
So it's like it's gonna be like 2 weeks straight of paranormal.
Dude, that is packed. But you sound super excited about it though. So that's the positive thing.
Well, like 6 investigations all in basically 1 week. That's half of my book done.
Sweet.
So I'll have all the investigations to sit on and then process them and then write the chapters. I'll have time to do that in the winter instead of, having them all spread out for forever.
True.
So
That's a good way to look at it.
So yeah, it'll be convenient. She's back.
Oh, Gwen's back.
My air's working.
Hey, that's
Sorry,
a positive.
I'm excited. Yeah, we got about 7 minutes left. And I've been listening to you guys kind of, but yeah, good stories. And good luck on your book. Good luck on your book.
Do you not think I'm keeping track of the time, Gwen? I'm like the time Nazi around here.
Thank you.
I know you are. Time Nazi.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out that book. I'm actually going to go and order the other books that you've written because they look extremely interesting to me. And I have a humongous paranormal library, so anything that involves stuff like that, like
Sure.
I love reading, so that's right up my alley.
I have a new book that's supposed to be out at Gettysburg, published through Mike Ricksecker of Haunted Road Media. It's a kind of a paranormal how-to guide starting from the beginning to everything you need to know about equipment, about research, about everything. That's the newest one that's coming out hopefully in July. Fingers crossed. And then the one I'm working on now is going to be published through Llewellyn. And that's like a 2026 or 27 release.
Well, I'm looking
So that
forward
one's
to
got
it.
a long time yet.
I'm looking forward to it. I actually
Thank you. Me
currently
too.
have
I can't wait.
I currently have my phone stand propped up on a book about near-death experiences. So,
Okay.
so I look
That's
into a little
something I
bit of
haven't really
everything.
gotten too much into. I have friends that have done it, but yeah.
It's just an interesting thing to pass time to read for me. So,
Sure.
so
Sure. I get it.
So Larry, we got about 6 minutes, almost 5 left. So we're nearing the end of the show. I want you to plug your stuff, man. Where can people find where can people find you? I know they can find you on Paraflixx and all that, but plug your stuff and where can people find you? What events are you going to be at this year?
Oh.
You don't have to list them all. You don't have to
see.
list them all because I know you said there was a lot earlier.
There's a lot. My next event is going to be the Haunted America Con in Alton, Illinois. That's June 20th through 22nd. And then I've got the Rockdown, July 12th. I've got the Illinois Paranormal Conference in Rockford, July 12th. The following weekend, I'm at the Rockdown at Broadhead. The weekend after that, I'm at Gettysburg. And then in September, I'm going to the Maine Paranormal and Horror Con.
I'll see you there too.
Sweet. So that's all the events I have coming up. And then basically the best place to find me is Facebook. I have the blue check mark with that name, so you know it's me. And from there, stuff automatically posts to Instagram. I'm not super active on Instagram or TikTok. I'm mostly on Facebook. You could see me there. You can send me messages, but I don't always respond. Or if I do, it's like 1 or 2 words, and then I got to get back to doing something, and then I forget. But
you're a busy guy, so I mean,
it's the life. It's the life. So,
it is. I mean,
but yeah,
I
you
know...
can find everything on Facebook.
Awesome. Is there a link to where people can buy your books on Facebook as well?
Yeah. So if you go to my profile, the 2 links that are in there are my link tree, and then my website. So you could get all the links through there. Link tree is probably the easiest for videos and for social media stuff, and then the books themselves. And then the website has them all too.
Awesome. Awesome, because I want people to go and buy these books. I want to support you. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And I'm also looking forward to
Well,
meeting
the
you at
best place
Broadhead.
to buy the books is from me in person.
Yeah,
then I can sign them.
exactly.
Well, I plan on it probably not at Broadhead, only because I'm bringing just enough to where I have an overhead storage, but it's just enough stuff for the day for when I'm there. But I may be able to get one or two of them. I mean, depending on the size, I might be able to squeeze them in there. I'm pretty sure I can. Because I want one. So.
Sure. Sounds good.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you at Broadhead. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Maine. That's going to be awesome as well. So I like to end the podcast with a set of questions. So first question, I know you've been all over the place while filming Expedition Entity, and you've been a lot of places. But I feel like every paranormal investigator out there has a bucket list spot that they've never been. What's your bucket list spot?
So it used to be Gettysburg, and I conquered that last year.
Cool.
So the current bucket list is a castle in England, Ireland, Scotland, and I'm filming a documentary in Ireland in September.
Nice.
So I'll be at Lemp Castle, scratching that one off.
Awesome.
After that,
for sure.
Yeah, that's where we're going. We're filming there. And then the third bucket list, which will probably be a while, would be New Orleans. I'm going to go eventually.
Yeah, I've not been there, but I've heard you're not missing much. But it's full of history, though. So, I mean, that's why I would go.
Yeah.
So
I would go off the beaten path to find the good stuff.
I like it. I like it. So we got your bucket list. Out of the three, I'm just going to say we're going to New Orleans, right? You got New Orleans. If you could choose one person, alive or dead, they do not have to be involved in the paranormal, that you could take with you, who are you taking?
So I've been filming a lot with Brittany Bickett, and I'd probably take her.
Okay.
She kind of tunes into a lot of things that I can't, and it's hilarious to film her. So I'm always going to get really funny content.
I like it. That's a great answer.
So I'd probably take her just for the entertainment value.
Okay, so we got New Orleans. You're bringing Brittany. Besides your camera, because I know you're a filmmaker, that's just going to be a gimme on this one. You only can bring one piece of physical equipment with you for this investigation. What piece are you choosing and why?
Can I choose my Estes kit?
Technically, even if it's a kit, I would consider that
one piece. Okay.
I would consider that one.
So my Estes kit comes with these, they're like SoundCloud noise canceling headphones. They're wireless. So I've got that. I've got my Delco goggles in the kit, and then I have my Phasma box.
Oh yeah.
In the kit, and I do my Estes with those three. Completely wireless, so I can just set it down and not get strangled to death by the cable. And that's really my go-to is that kit.
I like it. I think you got a great set going on there. You got New Orleans, you got Brittany, and you got your Estes kit. I love that. That's a great setup.
Yep.
But
it would be very productive.
Larry, I thank you so much for coming on the show. If you wouldn't mind just hanging out like 5 minutes afterwards, like we discussed earlier. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation.
No, thank you. I can't wait to see you in Broadhead.
Yes, I can't wait to meet you in person, shake your hand, get you to sign one of those books for me.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Just
Bill,
one?
You missed the whole show. We talked about Broadhead for an hour, Bill.
He's been on here a little while, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's coming on my show Thursday, Bill. Please show up.
Yeah.
Please show up.
I know he doesn't like to be on.
Thank you, Morgan.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. All right, I'm gonna pull you down, Larry. Just hang on for a minute, and we're gonna get out of here. All right, I'm sorry I missed it. I'm getting the air fixed, and yeah. So
look, circumstances happen. That is what it is. I kind of feel like I did a good job being host and co-host in your absence, so we got this. No worries.
You did. You absolutely did. So proud of you.
It is what it is. You know what? I know there's going to be times where you can't attend the show because you're busy doing other things. So it's no issue whatsoever. But
we had Larry, and he's a great guest. So
Oh yeah, I love the way he thinks. I feel like he's got this great mind, and as far as filmmaking goes, like filmmaking fascinates me. I'm not great at it, so I feel like I can learn some stuff from him. Especially when I meet him in Broadhead.
Absolutely.
I think that it was an amazing conversation. He's very knowledgeable, and I just enjoyed it overall.
Oh, I was listening, and I hope I get to meet him too very soon. I'll be at some stuff. I'll just say.
Oh yeah. So, yeah. I'm sure you get to meet him. I'm pretty sure of that. But everybody, that was tonight's episode of the Paranormal Unveiled podcast. For Gwen Johns and myself, we're signing off. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show.
All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Come on.